Let's go into primitive reflexes and what they mean. Has a big thing to do with children, childhood developmental disorders, anything behavioral disorders, big time with kiddos. These are the guys we're looking for. This is the foundational one, especially for kids that we're looking at is primitive reflexes. So this first part, we got to just talk about what primitive reflex is, what it means, all right? So when you look at primitive, that just means older. Think about animals and how they react. That's more primitive. They can't control their reactions. It's almost like if you scare them, they're either going to bite you or they're going to run away. That is a primitive reflex, not something that they have good control over. All of these reflexes, which are natural reactions, they all occur in this brainstem area right here. Okay, this brainstem area has to do with survival, right? So that's all it cares about is, hey, I need to either run away from this thing or I need to fight it and kill it, otherwise I could die. So like that's all that brainstem area cares about, and that's where these primitive reflexes originate. And they should be with every young kiddo as an infant, and that's what helps them develop how to move and develop all their movement patterns and how to move their head, how to move their arms and their legs, and all these things all originate in this brainstem area. These primitive reflexes, or these older reactions that we can't control, this is what a reflex is. It's kind of like when I hit your kneecap and you kick your foot. That's a reflex too. Another name for it is frontal release signs. All right, people with strokes, some of these primitive reflexes come back because they've had a stroke to an area of their cortex, or this area of the brain up here that we can actually control. It's like thinking, our ability to control movement, our ability to feel sensations. That is this cortex area up here. So whenever they say their frontal release signs, what they're talking about is this area right here. This area right here, whenever it gets hurt or damaged or isn't developed enough, as in used enough as a kiddo with these primitive reflexes, then these start showing back up. So this area right here goes down and helps one to be able to control those primitive reflexes, so you're not always being reactive, or you're not always being angry, or you're not always having to bite someone's head off or run away from them. So it helps the person be able to control their emotions and control their movements, pretty much control their reflexes that are instilled in us in order to be able to survive. So once again, brainstem, that's more survival stuff. Now when we get up here, now that's our ability to think, to control, to rationalize, right? And the healthier this area is, the more it can shut down this area, so someone's not always either in fight or flight response. Let's see. Another thing to note about these reflexes, I think it's important for teachers, practitioners, also caretakers and parents to understand that a lot of these things that kids are doing, they're not doing it on purpose. It is literally a reflex. So if you can understand that fact, that's going to help you better be able to rationalize and understand what they're doing, and take a little bit of less stress off of you, and help with the understanding of it all. What we're going to dive into next is all the different types of primitive reflexes, how we test them, what kind of common symptoms kids have, and then obviously what we do to treat it here at the office that seems to work the best to, one, fix the primitive reflex, and two, make their frontal cortex, that area of the brain, work better. Because whenever we're looking at this area of the brain, once this area of the brain works good, then we can move complexly with multiple body parts and do complex things. And then after that comes the ability to think complexly, rationalize, the ability to do problem solving, mathematics, and all that other fun stuff. So stay tuned. All right, let's talk more primitive reflexes. The one we're going to discuss today is called the tonic Labyrinthine Reflex, or the TLR is like what we like to call it. So this one, once again, is developed in infants, and it should be there from the birthing process up until about 4 to 6 months. And what this guy helps to do is he utilizes that inner ear balance vestibular system, who works off of gravity, and he helps to, once again, get the body moving until they can move it naturally themselves, right? So for example, when the kiddos are on their stomach and you raise their head up, they should go into like a Superman position where their arms are up, their head is up, their back is extended, and their legs are up. Just the opposite of that, when you tilt their head down, that's whenever they're gonna curl their arms, flex their belly, and they're gonna bring their legs up in a flexed position. So what this reflex try to utilize is gravity, which is that inner ear balance system, in these two different positions mainly, to start activating the body's ability to move, and then eventually develop and be able to move differently. So with this one, classic symptoms that you could have, you just got to think of like an overactive inner ear vestibular system if your kiddo still has this. It could be like motion sensitive, car sickness. They're going to say difficulty with left, right, up, and down. Whenever they sit, they tend to slouch. They may be toe walking. They may have a fear of heights. People that have overactive vestibular systems usually have a fear of heights. So the way I like to think of this one is it's the inability to have your inner ear vestibular system separately working from your body and your arms. That's kind of how I like to look at it, and what we'll go over next is how I test it and then the treatment strategies off of that. A couple different ways that I like to test the Tonic Labyrinthine Reflex is, one way you can do it standing is you have the kiddo put their feet together, or the adult, and they're standing on maybe a foam pad or something like that, and you close your eye, have them close their eyes, and you bring their chin down to their chest, and if they get super unsteady or even fall, that's a positive tonic labyrinthine with flexion. And then you can do the same thing with tilting their head back. If they get really unstable or just fall backwards, you're going to know that that reflex is definitely present and still active. The other way I like to do it is I get kiddos on their hands and knees like this, and I have them close their eyes, and I have them and I take their chin down to their chest, and what you're going to see is the kid will go down like this. And then you bring back up, they'll come back up. And then you bring their chin down again, and they're going to flex their whole body. The other one is you have them close their eyes and you bring their head up, and what you're going to see is the kiddo's arms straighten and legs straighten. Then you bring it straight and they'll go back to here. Do it again, and then they're going to straighten up like this. And their back is going to arch. More subtle ones you may see is you tilt their head back and their back just arches. Bring their chin down and their back arches like that. So what you're looking for is any movement in the arms, legs, or even the core section with each one of those. For treatment-wise, like I said earlier, whenever we're looking at the tonic labyrinthine reflex, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the body to work separate from that inner ear balance system. We want to do it in two main directions. This flexion, where your chin goes down, you want your body to be working separate, and then when you tilt your head back, you want your body to not do this. So you want your head and neck to work separate from your body, core, and legs and arms. So one of my favorite ones for the head back one is called the Superman, but I like to be very specific with it. So whenever we're in the Superman position, I tell them you got to keep your chin tucked, but I want you to lift your body up off the table like you're flying. But the really important part is the chin has to be tucked. Some of them can only do this if their chin is back, but it has to be tucked really, really hard, and you want to have them hold that there for 10 to 15, 20 seconds, and you want to have them do it multiple times. The next ones I like to do for that reflex is either a bear crawl or a crab crawl, right? So if we're doing a bear crawl, right, like this, our legs and arms are extended, we're going to have our chin tucked, and we're just going to walk. And that's going to get the back side of the arms and legs working really, really well separate from the head. The other one is the bear crawl, like this. You don't want the chin down, you want the chin up like this, and once again walking nice and slow, opposite arm, opposite leg, and that's going to get the arms and legs working very separate from the head and neck. Now if it's a front core thing, that's when I like to add in sit-ups. And with the sit-ups, you want to make sure that the legs are down flat. You don't want to necessarily have them up. Arms are crossed, and you're just having them sit up like that. And you want to make sure they don't get too much neck involvement so that they can get really, really strong and aware of how to use their... So when we're looking at the rehab, we have a couple different ones that are trying to get the front core, back core situation working separate from the head and neck. The other ones are more focused on the extremities working separate from the head and neck. So with the front core one, we'll have them do sit-ups, making sure their chin is back like this and not super tucked so they're not getting their head and neck involved and they're really feeling their front core. The one for the back can be the Superman. Superman also can be the back of the arms and back of the legs when you're holding it up there, but once again the chin has to be tucked with that one. Another one for just focusing on back of arms is the crab walk, and that's where the chin needs to be tucked, doing the crab walk, doing opposite arm, opposite leg. And then another one for the front of the arms and legs would be more the bear crawl, where your head is up like this, looking straight ahead and focusing on feeling arms, opposite leg.